June 6th, 1944. Normandy. Phones die. Radio spits static. The sea turns black with shapes. A German operator hears one word. Fallschirmjäger. Paratroopers. Bridges erupt inland. Coastal guns flash. Warships answer with thunder. Sand erupts into metal and smoke. Is this the invasion? Or a decoy to keep our reserves stuck at Calais? Omaha and Utah, U.S. code names for two beaches. At Omaha, German clifftop guns pin the first U.S. waves to the sand. At Utah, the current pushes the landing south, by luck into a weaker German sector, so U.S. troops break inland faster. East of Caen, German armor claws toward the water, then freezes in daylight as Allied aircraft circle, and the roads turn into traps. In Berlin, one decision would decide everything. Tanks now, or too late. D-Day wasn't lost in one moment. It leaked, through deception, delay, and the sky itself. If you want the war told from the other side, subscribe now. We're stepping inside the German command posts next. Perspective isn't approval. This is a military analysis of decisions on June 6, 1944, not a defense of the Nazi regime. The Atlantic Wall, Germany's coastal fortifications, was built to make the shoreline untouchable. Concrete casemates, interlocking machine gun nests, minefields, obstacles, and heavy batteries tied to observers. On maps, it looked airtight. On the ground, it relied on thin garrisons and static divisions, with few vehicles and guns that couldn't shift quickly. Ammunition varied by sector. Germany could hit hard in place, not move fast under pressure. Air power set the pace. The Luftwaffe, German Air Force, no longer controlled the sky. Months of bombing cratered rail lines and bridges that moved fuel and shells forward. By June, fuel itself was tight. Moving reserves by day invited attack. Inside command, two views collided. At OB West, Western Front headquarters, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt wanted armor held back for a mass counterstrike once the main landing was clear. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel argued for smashing the enemy on the beaches before Allied air and naval guns made movement suicidal. Both were partly right. The compromise meant delay. Some armor sat forward, some deep, and key divisions needed Hitler's personal release on the one morning when minutes mattered most. Operation Fortitude. Allied deception toward Calais. Pointed German eyes to Pas de Calais, the shortest crossing. A fake army under General Patton, dummy landing craft, scripted radio nets that sounded like whole corps, and double agents delivering inside details that matched German expectations. A Channel storm in early June made June 6, 1944 look unlikely. Rommel left to see his wife on her birthday and push for more mines. The 15th Army, the strongest Western force, stayed near Calais, guarding a blow that never came. When the real fleet angled toward Normandy, many maps still pointed north. Just before midnight, paratroopers drop over the Cotentin Peninsula, west of the beaches, and near the Orne River by Caen. Some land off target, but enough hit bridges, crossroads, and phone lines to cause real trouble. They cut wires, flip road signs, and hold junctions just long enough to force German units to detour. German radar screens clog with duple, strips of foil, chaff, that confuse radar, so real contacts are hard to read. Decoy boats and fake radio traffic create the illusion of more landings than there are. A very real invasion fleet is also coming, but haze and deception make reports sound unreliable. Inside headquarters, messages conflict. Airborne forces everywhere versus just saboteurs. The Merville Battery, a coastal gun site east of the Orne, is knocked out, but that warning gets buried in the noise. Because many still expect the main blow at Calais, Normandy is treated as a diversion for a few critical hours. From west to east, the invasion touched 5 names that morning: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword, and each one felt different from inside the German command. At Utah, U.S. forces came ashore opposite elements of the German 709th Division. Currents nudged the landing south of the intended sectors, and by chance the troops hit a thinner stretch of defenses along flooded lowlands. While Allied naval guns hammered inland batteries, U.S. airborne units already on the causeways held the exits off the beach. With those crossings in friendly hands, U.S. infantry moved quickly, and German requests for reserves ran into the same hard limits seen all day: distance, daylight, and Allied aircraft watching every road. Shift one beach east, and the picture changes. Omaha pitted U.S. divisions against the German 352nd Infantry Division, a more experienced formation that had quietly reinforced the coast. On the bluffs above the sand, German strongpoints, WNs, created crossfire from multiple positions, striking the beach from several angles at once. Machine guns and mortars swept the shingle. Artillery caught men in the surf. For hours, U.S. troops were pinned. Then, the balance tilted. Allied battleships and cruisers edged closer and began breaking the most dangerous nests. U.S. engineers blew gaps in the obstacles, and small groups advanced through gullies and low spots the clifftop guns couldn't see. By midday, what had been a solid German line fractured into isolated pockets, fighting on their own. Farther along the coast at Gold, British forces met the German 716th Division, a formation stretched thin across a wide frontage. The defenders hit hard where they could. But once British armor started rolling off the landing craft in numbers, the beachhead thickened. Company by company, the British pushed inland to link the beach with the villages behind it. On Juno, Canadian troops also faced the 716th, with some sectors held by Ost battalions, non-German conscripts assigned to static defense. The fighting was sharp in the opening hours. Yet as more Canadian units reached the seawall and beyond, they pressed into the towns faster than German staff tables had predicted. Individual German positions still bit hard, but the line could not close again once armor and artillery came ashore. At the eastern end, Sword saw British forces build a bridgehead near the Orne River. Here too, the 716th held parts of the line, but it could not prevent the steady buildup of men and machines. By early afternoon, the fight briefly flipped. Elements of the German 21st Panzer Division counterattacked toward the sea, aiming to split the British beach from the Allied airborne on the far side of the Orne. Accounts differ on how close those panzers came to the water, but the outcome is consistent. Under Allied fighter bombers and the reach of naval guns, the advance stalled and recoiled to the inland edge of the beachhead. Across all 5 beaches, the pattern that emerges is less about will than about movement. German platoons resisted fiercely. Our focus here is strictly on military decisions, not ideology. Under Allied air and naval pressure, German coordination unraveled. Units that should have supported one another could not move in daylight, could not communicate reliably, or no longer knew exactly where the front line ran. By the time the picture cleared, the invaders were no longer just on the sand, they were inland and growing. The strongest nearby formations, Panzerlehr, 12th SS, 2nd Panzer, weren't under one commander. Key moves required Hitler's approval. So orders bounced between headquarters and came too late. One fear lingered. What if Normandy is a feint? If the main blow hit Calais, stripping armor south would be a disaster. That worry kept formations in place, even as reports from Normandy grew harder to dismiss. A famous claim says Hitler slept through crucial early hours, delaying approval. Some accounts support that. Other research points to staff hesitation, bad communications, and uncertainty about a second landing. Bottom line, the release came too slowly for that morning. When orders finally freed the panzers, Allied aircraft ruled the day. Trains were out, bridges down, and columns crept along hedgerows to avoid detection, losing vehicles to breakdowns and strafing. What should have been a single hammer landed as scattered blows that never synchronized. 21st Panzer's thrust near Sword showed what might have been at dawn: brief penetration, then recoil under air and naval fire. When Panzerlehr moved, Normandy already swarmed with Allied infantry, armor, and guns. The window to push the enemy into the sea had closed. Normandy is now clearly the real landing, but Calais still haunts decisions. If the 15th Army moves south and Calais opens hours later, the coast could fall. On paper, caution looks wise. On June 6th, It proves fatal. The 15th Army stays put. Rail bridges lie in rivers. The Luftwaffe appears in flashes, not strength. Commanders form Kampfgruppen, ad hoc mixed battle groups, from whatever is close and mobile. They retake villages, then lose them to artillery and air. Reports contradict each other by the hour. Some German memoirs later suggest a dawn release of all available armor toward Bayeux or Calm might have cut deeply into the beachhead. Most modern analyses say Allied air supremacy, naval gunfire, and numbers afloat made that unlikely. Fair framing. A debated what-if, not a proven fix. By nightfall, lines still exist. Caen hasn't fallen. In the Cotentin, routes toward Cherbourg still matter. Officers picture a coordinated counterattack on June 7th or 8th. The arithmetic moves the other way. Each hour, more allies ashore. Each day, smaller German columns arriving later under attack. Fragmented authority wastes time. Armor split between forward and reserve. Key divisions on a leash only the top could loosen. On the one morning when minutes counted, decisions slowed into irrelevance. Deception works when it flatters belief. Fortitude, the Calais deception, echoed German logic. Evidence that confirmed it felt right. Evidence that didn't felt like noise. Air and sea power control movement. The Luftwaffe couldn't contest the skies in strength. Allied aircraft ruled the roads by day. Naval guns broke strong points infantry alone couldn't. Air-sea dominance didn't just support landings, it set the tempo. Uneven troops and brittle logistics hurt. Static divisions and Ost battalions fought with courage, but lacked mobility and heavy firepower. Under bombardment, resupply meant detours, delays, and risk. Cut one node, and a regiment went blind. On the beach, German strongpoints, WNs, dominated open sand. Once attackers stepped past the seawall, the bocage, Normandy's thick hedgerows and sunken lanes, broke the ground into small rooms. That cover let Allied units hide, regroup, and bring more guns forward. From the German side, D-Day reads like near misses, almost pivoting the 15th Army south in time, almost releasing all armor at dawn, almost sealing Omaha before naval guns cracked key nests, almost splitting the British beaches from the airborne bridgeheads with the 21st Panzer's thrust, almost turning night confusion into a coordinated morning defense. Understanding the German command's choices does not excuse the crimes of the Nazi regime. History is merciless with almosts. Once the Allies were ashore in strength, the Atlantic Wall wasn't a wall. It was a shoreline behind the enemy. If this inside view challenged what you thought you knew, drop a comment with the next campaign you want told from the other side. Hit like and subscribe so you're here for the next episode. Forgotten history makes unforgettable stories.